Welcome to the Third House Podcast. I'm Erica, your host, and together we'll unravel the astrological and psychological tapestry that shapes our lives. Join me as we navigate the threads that connect our chart to our emotions, relationships, and inner world. Get ready for illuminating conversation and insight, because self-discovery has no bounds. Hello, everyone. Welcome to your 2025 year ahead astrological podcast. I will be doing month by month. There will be chapters, so you can easily jump back to each month. However, please listen through to the end because I will be concluding with some general notes and also some perspective on 2026. So in my opinion, I think 2025 into 2026 is really shifting us into sort of a new chapter, a new wave, sort of like 2020 did, but obviously in a very different way. So definitely listen through to the end so that you can sort of wrap up and gain that perspective of what 2025 might be really gearing you up for into 2026. So again, this is not conclusive. I do not include every transit. If you want something more detailed that you can have with you on your device or your phone, I do have a very lengthy, I believe it's about 39 pages, about 60 transits completely broken down with advice based on each rising sign, available on my website. The link is in the description below for that. So if you want to grab that guide first, download it to your device, and then listen through this podcast episode to add additional notes about, anything that comes up for you, please do so. If not, I would definitely take notes regardless, because I do go through a lot of key dates, things to look out for, preparatory shadow type periods, that will definitely help prep you before the actual transit happens. But again, this is not conclusive, so please refer to your own chart, your own placements. And as always, I do offer one-on-one sessions for those that really want to go in depth or just need some help or perspective along the way that's very specific to your fingerprint, your birth chart. And the link is in the description below for that. And lastly, my last announcement, I will be increasing my prices, not drastically, but as we go into the new year, as I'm increasing my workload, I am going to increase my prices. So just be aware of that. Please subscribe and come back each month, especially if you're new here. Every month, I provide a lot of supplemental content, monthly horoscopes that break down the transits in more detail along the way. So again, definitely grab your 2025 yearly guide, which goes into a lot more detail as we go through this, or just grab your notes, get ready, buckle up. And again, don't forget to listen through to the end to really take all of this information and apply it to sort of what you might be gearing up for into 2026. All right, Scorpio risings. So on January 6th, 2025, your ruling planet, Mars, is going to retrograde back into your Cancer 9th house of higher education, travel, spirituality, religion. This is also like if you're into publishing, writing, teaching, traveling as well for work. It's sort of tying in those themes. If your midheaven is in the last couple of degrees of Cancer, this could also heavily influence a career situation. But this is, Mars rules you, it rules your body, your identity, how you show up in the world, but it also rules your 6th house of daily work, health, and routines. So there could be sort of you revising maybe anything that came up roughly around the end of October, beginning of November 2024, where, maybe you're looking at anything to do with like your growth and potential and how it's really supporting you on a very personal level, but also how it's supporting your daily work, your health, and your routines. On January 13th, 2025, there will be a full moon in that Cancer ninth house. Again, anything you're really pursuing to increase your growth and potential in life, this full moon is really highlighting it. It's culminating it. It will be at 24 degrees, hanging out or conjunct Mars retrograde at 27 degrees. So this full moon is sort of tying in or illuminating something around a growth and potential situation. For some of you, if you're midheavens in Cancer, a career situation, tying into, what is culminating that in the area of growth and potential, and for some career that is like really supporting, is it really supporting you? How are your actions and desires going into 2025 changing as you're sort of moving through this? Then on January 27th, 2025, through February 28th, 2025, Venus will enter shadow. So this is sort of that, Venus is direct, but it's entering that contextual clue period before Venus goes retrograde. So again, what contextual clues are building that could be tying in themes regarding seventh house, so partnership, marriage, also Libra 12th house, like what's going on mentally, what's going on dreams, what's going on with mental thought patterns for better or for worse, that is coming up. But on a more like an everyday situation, I think pay attention to any conversations or themes regarding partnership or the desire for one, and sort of what's going on mentally. I think some of you might be having a lot on the mind that maybe you're not sharing with the world, but it's giving you those contextual clues as to what you might review and revise. And I will go into more of those details as we go through February and March. Now, January 29th, 2025, there will be a new moon in your Aquarius fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate. So this new moon at 9 degrees is providing some opportunity to sort of create a new chapter, a new beginning around the people you live with. Again, home, family, property, real estate, especially as we kind of start the new year. So this could be a good time to kind of like refresh the home, refresh the family relationships, sort of get sort of anchored in the living environment that is going to support you the most as we go through, especially the next couple months, where there could be a lot of turning points in the beginning of 2025 for all of us that align us in a particular direction for many years to come. Now, February 1st, 2025 is important, give or take a couple days, because Venus in your Pisces fifth house, so this is bringing in themes of creativity, self-expression, joy, romance, and children, if applicable to you. Venus will be in this area, and Venus is exalted in your Pisces fifth house. Very strong, well-resourced Venus, and Venus will go conjunct the North Node on February 1st at 28 degrees. This is very important, one, because Venus is going conjunct the North Node, which is a point of increase. It's sort of like it's increasing those themes. It's bringing in an overall life direction, for some even purpose. And Venus rules at 12th house, so that, what's going on mentally. Also rules that 7th house of marriage and partnership for Scorpio risings. So it's sort of like what's increasing in, mentally or within partnership, or the desire for partnership, that's playing out with children, if applicable to you. That's playing out with your overall maybe increased desire to incorporate more joy, more romance, more fun in your life. But breaking it down even more, Venus is in shadow. So pay very close attention to this increasing area and associated themes, because Venus is going to go retrograde and come back and join the North Node, but at Venus's most exalted degree. So it's sort of like kicking something off, pay very close attention. Then it's, Venus will go retrograde. You'll start that revisionary process. It will join this area again at its most exalted degree. So it's sort of like it's going to kick off, go retrograde. You're going to revise the situation and associated themes I just discussed. And then in a very strong way, it's going to bring you back to maybe a moment of clarity, maybe a moment of knowing sort of the direction you need to take. It will still be retrograde, but again, it will be at its most exalted degree. So this is a supercharged Venus, really giving the potential to tie in, mental thought patterns, personal and professional partnerships as well. And then on February 7th, 2025, Neptune will go conjunct the North Node in Pisces. So again, Pisces is going to be hella highlighted in the beginning of 2025. February 7th, Neptune goes conjunct that North Node in this 5th house of joy, pleasure, creativity, self-expression, children, if applicable. Again, the 5th house is the fun house. So for some of you, this actually might be a good thing because it's increasing a direction towards joy, hopefully for all of you. But with Neptune going conjunct the North Node, I actually think this is tying in a theme or a cycle that was going on in 2016. So think back to 2016. This is where Neptune was conjunct the South Node, which is a point of decrease, a releasing, a letting go in this area. That now, maybe some of you are starting to experience similar themes or similar cycles to something that came up in 2016, but now it's in a different perspective. It's in, Neptune is now conjunct the North Node, which is the opposite point of increase, desire, hunger. And so some of you might be having this full circle moment of maybe looking back, seeing, especially in the area of children, romance, joy, creative projects, what was going on, that now it's sort of like the same but different and more increasing instead of releasing this time around. Then on February 12th, 2025, there will be a full moon in your Leo 10th house of career, business, and public recognition. So this full moon is really culminating the career and the public recognition. However, this full moon forms a T-square. So it's like forming two squares with Mercury and Uranus. So this full moon, again, the moon moves quickly, but there could be a culminating moment around career that is sort of needing to be balanced with home and family. And there could be a lot of pressure on Uranus and the planet in the area of partnership. So the area of marriage, partnership, whether it's personal or professional, could have a lot of pressure on it to act and to change in order to accommodate the career, the home and family situation. But on a more specific level, this is the moon. It will pass quickly. I'm not too worried about it, but I think it's worth mentioning. Again, I'm not going to talk about every full moon and every new moon in this podcast episode, but this full moon, making that configuration with Mercury and Uranus. Mercury and Uranus configurations, I've noticed, really activates our nervous system. And that's because Uranus, I believe, is the higher octave of Mercury. And these two planets tend to activate our nervous system, which means I've noticed more irritability, more desire for change, more anxiety kind of come up. And this is a full moon where things are sort of culminating and coming to light. So just be aware of that. If you need to pause, if you need to take a break. The empty leg in this T-square is your first house of self. So I would advise, if you're feeling sort of the increasing energy that's sort of building around this time, um, definitely focus on the first house themes. So your body, your appearance, your identity, the self care is sort of that empty leg that might provide some help or perspective in taking a pause and a break to, what needs balance or what actually needs change. February 23rd, 2025, Mars finally goes direct at 17 degrees Cancer in that ninth house. Again, ninth house is higher education, knowledge, beliefs, the spirituality, the religion, the long distance travel, teaching, writing, publishing, if you're in those fields. Mars going direct here is sort of ending that revisionary period around our actions and desires. For you, potentially tying in work, health, and routine themes, as well as, your body, yourself, your appearance. And for some of you, sort of like your actions and desires around the growth and potential in your life that is supporting you, supporting your health, your work, and your routines. So this will start to move forward, but Mars will be finally direct at the degree at which it was in October 2024. So whatever was kind of trickling in October 2024 regarding the work, health, routines, and self, and sort of the growth and potential you really were potentially seeking or wanting, could be coming back around and sort of starting to actually move forward in a more external way, or at least I hope so. Now, March, we get into eclipse season, and March 1st really kicks off with Mercury going conjunct the North Node in that Pisces fifth house of creativity, self-expression, the joy, the romance, and children, if applicable. This will take place at 27 degrees, so if you have personal placements there, definitely pay attention to that. But Mercury rules your 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. It also rules your 8th house of transformation and other people's resources, including a partner's resources. So some of you might be really looking at your social network, your goals, and what resources you have in order to move towards creative projects, having more fun in your life, romance, or taking care of childcare or, your children's needs. When Mercury goes conjunct the North Node on March 1st, Mercury will be entering shadow. So although it's at this point of increase or desire for overall life direction or where you want to go regarding those themes I just discussed, it is entering shadow. So you'll likely revise or go back over whatever increasing themes regarding those themes I discussed. You'll likely go back over them. And additionally, on March 1st, Venus finally goes retrograde, starting that revisionary period of what potentially played out from the end of January through the last day of February, particularly what was going on mentally and or in the area of partnership, personal and professional. March 14th, 2025, there will be a full moon total lunar eclipse in your Virgo 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. Really supercharged, illuminating your social network, who you surround yourself with, and your long-term goals. It will be at 23 degrees. And remember, I just said Mercury entered shadow and is about to go retrograde the day after this eclipse takes place, and Mercury rules this eclipse. So whatever changes, culmination, a sudden insight that comes up, particularly around your goals, friends, groups, communities, it could definitely, and push us into this additional revisionary period. So it's sort of like Mercury's gearing up to help us revise whatever changes or shifts happen. That's sort of how I'm looking at it. This eclipse will be opposite Saturn. So it could require some balance with boundaries and structures, particularly for you. Saturn rules that fourth house of home and family. So there could be necessary, a needed balance between, what's shifting, changing, culminating around your social network and your goals, and sort of, family needs, home needs, or, people you live with. And like I said, the following day on March 15th, Mercury goes retrograde at 9 degrees Aries. This will start that retrograde process in your sixth house of daily work, health, and routines. But again, this is really just starting that revisionary period around what came up from March 1st through March 14th and sort of what that eclipse shifted, changed, culminated, etc. Then on March 29th, 2025, there will be a new moon partial solar eclipse in your Aries sixth house of daily work, health, and routine. This is giving you an opportunity to create a new beginning and a new chapter around your health, your wellness, your routines, your daily work, and coworkers as well. This eclipse is providing this opportunity. It is at 9 degrees where Mercury went retrograde. So this could also tie into sort of whatever the eclipse maybe changed or shifted regarding goals or who you surround yourself with. It could also be tying in to you making new chapters regarding your approach to work, health, and routines with whatever else is essentially changing. And lastly, on March 30th, 2025, Neptune enters your Aries sixth house of daily work, health, and routines. The last time Neptune was in Aries was about 1861. So this doesn't happen often. Neptune is a planet of illusion, but I like to think of Neptune as a very dissolving planet, for better or worse. So Neptune is moving out of Pisces, a water sign, moving into a fire sign. It will eventually join with Saturn, but Neptune, I think, is going to give us an opportunity to dissolve, and for you in the sixth house, dissolve any structures, patterns, beliefs, or ways of having to do or be regarding your health, your work, and your routines. So again, I'll get into more detail, but 2025, you could really start to get the opportunity or get the little breeze, the little whisper kind of come in and give some perspective on what old patterns or structures are really not serving my health, my work, and my routine, and where can I sort of, again, in Aries, a fire sign, burn them down or dissolve them to initiate and create new structures and patterns to support, my health, my work, and my routines. Now, April 1st, 2025 is when we're coming back around to the Venus conjunct the North Node situation that came up in February. So April 1st, Venus, now retrograde, goes conjunct the North Node again. Now remember February 1st, when Venus was in shadow, conjunct the North Node. So it was direct, went conjunct the North Node, passed it, continued on, building contextual clues, stopped, went retrograde, continued retrograde, and now it's joining the North Node again, retrograde, but at its most exalted degree. So this is a very strong retrograde cycle, conjunct the North Node, again, life direction, where we want to go, even purpose for some. So this is a very strong revisionary period that could be bringing you back to that February 1st timeframe. But again, Venus rules that 12th house of mental thought patterns, dreams, also the area of partnership for you. So you could something could be really amplifying or coming to fruition, or you're able to sort of see what is happening that's playing out particularly with sort of your approach to joy and fun and romance and children, if applicable to you. That is also tying into what is going on mentally with you and also what's going on within partnership for you. Now, April 7th, 2025, Mercury goes direct at 26 degrees Pisces and joins the North Node on April 10th. So again, we're having more North Node situations play out in that Pisces fifth house, but Mercury rules your 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals, and your 8th house of transformation, your long-term money situation, your resources, including your partner's resources if applicable. So now it's sort of like Mercury goes direct, especially if Mercury is direct in your natal chart. This is sort of like forward movement around anything goal-wise, social network, financial going on that's sort of tying into creative projects or children, romance, or sort of some of you seeking more joy, more fun. Now, this Mercury direct conjunct North Node, again, what's going on that is pulling you in a particular new direction in life, where this Mercury conjunct the North Node will also trine Mars in your Cancer ninth house at 27 degrees. So this could indicate that whatever you are reviewing and revising regarding you, your health, work, routines, this Mercury is sort of moving forward, playing into your overall life direction potentially, but also tying into what you were thinking about regarding growth, potential, work, health, and routines. And then on April 12th, 2025, there will be a full moon in your Libra 12th house, again, of that subconscious, mental thought patterns, dreams, life vision, really illuminating the area of solitude, rest, recharge, what's going on mentally. Something's being illuminated. Pay attention to your dreams around this time. But most importantly, Venus will finally be direct. So it's sort of like Venus finally goes direct, starts moving towards the North Node, finishing this long revisionary period regarding what's going on mentally, what's going on within personal and professional partnerships, where now there's a full moon, and that Venus rules that full moon in the area of, the subconscious, the dreams, the mental thought patterns. So this could indicate that something is sort of culminating or closing out regarding what's been on your mind as Venus is direct and moving towards the North Node, finishing what was probably heavily on your mind, maybe even a partnership situation, personal and professional, that now is really starting to move forward. Then on April 21st, 2025, Saturn goes conjunct the North Node in that Pisces fifth house of joy, children, romance, creativity, self-expression. Saturn rules your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate, as well as your third house of communication, siblings, sort of immediate environment, exchanging information, short distance travel. So this could be tying in or pulling you in the direction of now focusing on a home situation, a family situation, property situation, something with a sibling. And so it's sort of like things start to happen and move forward regarding, mentally, partnership wise, anything you're seeking, growth and potential wise, goals. And then as it starts to happen, it starts to kind of pull you into, okay, what's supporting me foundationally? What's supporting me within the home? What's going on with family, siblings, etc. Then finally, we wrap up on April 24th, 2025, when that Venus direct finally joins that North Node, where it was in shadow. It went originally conjunct that North Node back in February. So it's sort of like starting to move forward, potentially for some, that story that really increased in February or throughout February. And so this is sort of The closure. April overall looks to me like the dominoes are falling after a period of lots of change and waiting and reviewing and revising. And it seems like April is the month where we get to really start to see the dominoes fall. Things start to really move forward. And again, going conjunct the North Node, moving forward in a way that maybe corrects us or moves us in the direction that we need to go or that we want to go. Now, May, specifically May 18th, 2025, give or take a day or two, we have Jupiter in your eighth house of transformation, other people's resources, including your partner. So, investments, assets, debt, loans, again, your partner's resources play into this. Any sort of like long-term money management or mutual money management. But Jupiter going through the eighth can sometimes create like inheritance or an increase in a partner's money, increase in sort of like additional payouts. But on May 18th, Jupiter at 25 degrees is actually going to square the nodes. So we've had a lot going on with the nodes and the retrogrades, and then May comes along and Jupiter is squaring the nodes, creating some change, but it's at a north bending. So it's change with an increase. So there could be a lot of revising going on that, we just discussed over the past couple of months that is sort of aligning us in the direction we want or we need. At least I hope so. And Jupiter is at this point of increase in this area where we invest, where our resources are, where we merge, finances, or we seek transformational work. So this could be a point where maybe something shifted or changed, especially because Jupiter rules your second house of earned income and self-worth. So there could be maybe an increase in focusing on investing or increasing your resources or increasing a partner's resources or investing in transformational work or anything that's going to transform your finances, personally or within a partnership. Then on May 24th, 2025, Saturn is going to enter your Aries sixth house of daily work, health, and routines. So, Saturn typically going into the sixth house can definitely increase a strong need to focus on your health, nip it in the bud, so to speak. So if you have health issues that you've been neglecting or you haven't really been getting to the bottom of, Saturn going through the sixth can definitely help you be more disciplined and focused on getting to the bottom of it. But Neptune will also be sort of hanging out with Saturn here briefly through 2025, roughly May through August of 2025, helping you first dissolve outdated boundaries or structures that aren't really supporting your health, your work, and or routines. So definitely an interesting transit with Saturn. And once we get into 2025, this Saturn Neptune conjunction will happen here again, but at a more critical degree. So, May through August of 2025, I would pay attention to the themes, the things sort of coming up, because, we could definitely be coming back around to them. And for you, particularly in the area of health, work, and routines, as we get into 2026, which I'll discuss in the end of this episode. Now, June 9th, 2025, Jupiter is going to enter your Cancer ninth house. Again, the ninth house I like to think of what we pursue for more growth and potential. Jupiter is exalted here, so this is a very good thing. But Jupiter, I would pay attention to anything regarding higher education, continuing education, any travel for work, um, even because Jupiter rules your second house of earned income as well. So you could be spending money on education, you could be spending money on more travel, you could be spending more money on, investing in your growth and potential. But Jupiter is a planet of faith as well. In the ninth house of spirituality and religion, you could be expanding your mind more. You could be expanding more of your connection to divine or connection to whatever it is you believe. So either way, Jupiter is exalted here, very happy, very well resourced compared to the previous year where it was in detriment and sort of overdoing it, or the pendulum could have kind of been swinging from one end to the next with Jupiter in Gemini. But before Jupiter really gets to expand this area, on June 15th, it will square Saturn in your Aries 6th house of daily work, health, and routines. So it's sort of like before it expands, creates the abundance and the fortune that Jupiter tries to do, it squares Saturn, the planet of restriction and work and discipline. And sort of it's like Jupiter wants to expand and Saturn wants to restrict. So there's this push-pull in a square configuration that can be kind of frustrating, but it's really an invitation to create some change needed. And so Saturn's, hanging out here with Neptune, inviting a lot of Scorpio risings to basically say, okay, what old patterns, old structures, or old beliefs aren't really serving my work, my routines, and my health, and what needs to dissolve, or an Aries, a fire sign, burn down, to change in order for me to change into a structure or a system that really supports my health, my work, and my routines so that I can really step into the expansion regarding growth, potential, and travel. Now, June 25th, 2025, as this square is sort of working itself out, asking us to make some adjustment or change in order for the expansion and the new structure to take place, June 25th, there will be a new moon in your Cancer ninth house of that, growth, potential, travel. So it's sort of like we have this square, we have a bit of, maybe some needed change or in order to accommodate the new structure or the ability to expand. And this new moon is kind of coming along and being like, okay, what new chapter, what new beginning do you want to start here that is essentially going to unfold over the next 5 or 6 months as you're sort of making this change or taking this action? And then June 29th, 2025, Mercury will enter shadow at 3 degrees of Leo through July 18th, 2025. So this will be in your 10th house of career and public recognition. Mercury does rule your long-term goals. It also rules your resources as well. So I think maybe as you're making these adjustments to expand any growth potential or travel, you could also be initiating some revisionary period regarding the goals, the career, especially if you're like going back to school or you travel for work as well. Now, July 7th, 2025, these outer planets moving into new signs, new territory will sort of continue with Uranus entering your Gemini 8th house of transformation, investments, assets, debt, loans, other people's resources. Again, legal matters, inheritance, those types of things land here. Now, Uranus is a planet of change, rebellion, and innovation. So some of you might start to get the little trickle, little whisper of, what do I really want to innovate? How do I want to innovate how I invest? How, innovate and change my resources? Any transformational work? You could start to really see the change and innovation again playing into the trine with Pluto in your 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. So a lot of Scorpio risings, like you might start to really see the the beginning stages of change and transformation between your resources, transformational work, home, family, property, and real estate. Again, I'll get more into it in 2026 when Uranus sort of re-enters this area and really starts amping it up. So I'll get to that at the end. Now, July 18th, 2025, that Mercury finally goes retrograde at 15 degrees Leo in your 10th house of career and public recognition, really starting that revisionary period that came up around June 29th through July 17th regarding, yes, career, but your long-term goals, your resources, regarding your career, your business, and your public recognition. But as we get towards the end of July, particularly around July 20th, July 21st, Mars will go conjunct the South Node in your Virgo 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. Mars is your ruling planet. It also rules your daily work, health, and routines. While simultaneously, Venus in your Gemini 8th house of transformation and other people's resources will be at a north bending. It will be squaring the nodes at a north bending at this change or point of increase. So there could be a releasing of something that's no longer serving you as you're revising your goals, career, particularly no longer serving you on a personal level, but no longer serving your health, your work, or your routines, while you're also increasing maybe the transformation or the resources within a personal and professional relationship, as well as increasing transformational work that's supporting your mental health, your mental thought patterns, your dreams, your subconscious thought patterns, within and for your life. So it looks like there is this opportunity to release something that's no longer serving you in your work, your body, and your goals, while you're increasing maybe more of the long-term resources or the transformational work. So this could be, July could be sort of like a teeter-totter month where you're sort of really contemplating mentally, emotionally, what's really supporting you mentally, also physically, and how to sort of teeter-totter and figure out where to increase those resources while releasing what's no longer serving you. That's really going to support the goals and the career while that Mercury is still in that revisionary period. Now, as we get into August, specifically on August 11th, that Mercury goes direct. So, especially if you have Mercury direct in your natal chart, you could really start to see sort of the unfolding of maybe what was increasing within a partnership, the resources, the mental transformational work, the adjustments to the long-term goals and or the social network that could ultimately be affecting your work and your career. So you could definitely see the forward movement with that. And then the following day on August 12th, 2025, Venus will be conjunct Jupiter at 14 degrees Cancer. This is your ninth house of that higher education, spirituality, religion, travel, long distance travel, publishing, writing, teaching, if that's applicable to you. But we have the two benefics joining together in this area of growth, potential, and travel for you, where one of them is in its exaltation. So this is very good. And what I like about this is that Jupiter rules that fifth house of joy. And Venus rules that area of partnership and or the area of sort of, the subconscious thought patterns, the dreams. So I actually think this could be a really great time for pursuing knowledge, beliefs, but this could also be a really great time to travel, to go do something, especially if you're partnered up, like do something, go on vacation with your partner or with your children or both, to, increase more fun, more joy, more growth and potential in your personal life, but also, positively affect your professional life as well. So this is good. I really like this. I think, mid-August, specifically Saturday, August 16th, Jupiter will actually reach its most exalted degree in Cancer. So that could be particularly a good day for Scorpio risings, especially because, again, that Jupiter rules the second house of earned income and it also rules the fifth house of joy. So I'm liking this. I think some of you might be positively investing in maybe your education, spending money and investing in a joyful vacation. Some of you might be, positively investing in sort of deepening your spirituality, or again, anything with growth and potential, um, or travel could definitely be playing a part right now. Then on August 23rd, 2025, there will be a new moon in your Virgo 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long term goals. So you could reach, the end of August with a different perspective, the ability to start a new chapter after some revisionary period, maybe a break, having some fun, again, focusing on the growth potential and or travel, things that bring you joy for sure. But this new moon is sort of this new beginning or new opportunity around sort of your friends, groups, communities, and long term goals. However, it's going to quincunx Saturn in your Aries sixth house of daily work, health, and routines. So the quincunx tells me there is some uncomfortable adjustment needed to you establishing this new chapter around who you surround yourself with, friends, groups, communities, long term goals. And it's going to require some adjustment to, your work, your health, and your routine. So some of you might really heavily be focused on your work projects or like having a health and wellness lifestyle, and you might have to make some adjustments to accommodate sort of what you're focusing on for long term goals or socializing with friends, groups, and communities. And after this, what seems like a fairly positive, joyful August, we start to re enter into eclipse season where we start to see some more changes. Now, September 1st, 2025, Saturn is going to retrograde back into your Pisces fifth house. This might give you a little bit of break from Saturn, restructuring or giving you the beginning stages of maybe more work and discipline towards your health, work, and routines. But it could also bring you back to anything that was coming up, maybe with home, family, daily environment that was going on May of 2025, because Saturn's going back to that degree. I don't think that this is the biggest deal. We've had a very, a fairly long journey with Saturn through Pisces. This is just kind of wrapping up the last little bit. So it's just more of an opportunity to tie up any loose ends regarding the area of joy, creativity, self expression, children, romance, but also tying in, any home and family themes that you want to kind of tie up loose ends, organize, daily environment kind of stuff in order to support you incorporating more joy or structure more time for joy, time with children, romance, etc. Then we get to September 7th, 2025, where this full moon total lunar eclipse in your Pisces fifth house of joy, children, romance, creativity, self-expression will happen. Now, I have a close eye on this one because the eclipse that's happening here, really culminating, potentially causing some shifts and changes to this area, is at 15 degrees 22 minutes. The last time this eclipse happened here was September 2024, where Saturn was at 15 degrees 16 minutes. So there could, because Saturn just retrograded back into this area, it's sort of like, what's Saturn trying to tell us here? And Saturn rules your fourth house of home, family, property, real estate. It also rules your third house of communication, siblings, daily environment. So it's sort of like, what is culminating or maybe tying in these themes to your creativity, your children, romantic partner, um, really, how you have fun. And the good news, I think, about the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, September of 2025, is that the ruler of this eclipse will be in its exaltation. So I think there could be some situation that's kind of coming full circle or coming to a culmination that maybe also came up in September of 2024. But the eclipse in September of 2024, the ruler, Jupiter, was in its detriment. So it wasn't in the best position. Now, in September of 2025, it seems like there is this culmination. There could be this, fruition moment, closing moment where Jupiter's in its exaltation. It's in a very strong place. So I'm hoping that it is a positive sort of shift, change, culmination, etc. Now, September 21st, 2025, new moon, partial solar eclipse in Virgo at 29 degrees. So this is a strong new moon at the anaretic degree, especially adding a level of intensity to the area of creating new chapters and new beginnings around friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. The ruler of this eclipse, Mercury, will be in mutual reception with Venus. So at first glance, it sort of looks like the ruler of this eclipse starting this new chapter, this new beginning, is not really in the best position. But because it's in mutual reception with Venus, Venus actually has triplicity, which basically means that Venus has a little bit of strength. Venus has some people helping Venus out. And Venus, because it's in mutual reception with Mercury, is sort of this exception to the situation where Mercury is not necessarily in as bad of a situation at first glance. So in my opinion, you can look to Venus areas of your chart for that support in order to create that new chapter. So if you want to start a new chapter around friends, groups, communities, long-term goals, you can look to your seventh house of marriage and partnership, whether it's personal or professional. And you can also look to your Libra 12th house of that subconscious, where we have solitude, meditate, rest, recharge. So I would say for Scorpio risings, if you really want to create a new chapter around goals, social networks, people you surround yourself with, it could be a good time to sort of seek maybe perspective or support from your closest loved ones, partnerships, and also taking necessary time alone to rest, recharge, meditate, think, and sort of process. Now, as we get into, as we get into October 20th, 2025, Mercury enters shadow in your Scorpio first house. This, for Scorpio risings, could potentially be really playing into how you see yourself amongst your friends, groups, communities, and your long-term goals. Because with Mercury entering shadow in your first house of self, Mercury rules that 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals, where you just had an eclipse creating a new beginning in this area. So Mercury will be in shadow from October 20th through November 9th, building those contextual clues around your 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long term goals, but also your 8th house of transformation and other people's resources. So, sort of like, what resources do you have? What transformational work are you seeking to support your body, yourself? But also, how are you seeing yourself sort of integrating within your friends, groups, communities, and, you know, being able to pursue those long term goals? As Mercury enters shadow, it is going to join Mars, your ruling planet. And Mars is in rulership in your Scorpio first house, which is good. Mars has a good bit of strength. But Mars also rules your sixth house of daily work, health, and routines. So Mars in Scorpio is typically, generally speaking, very good at finding the way, of figuring it out. So although Mercury's entering shadow to gear up to go retrograde around this time, it's sort of like giving you an opportunity to really dig deep, peel back some deeper layers to find the solutions, find the ways to supporting your long term goals, surrounding yourself with the right people, aligning yourself with your resources to potentially support sort of your health, your body, your work, and your routines. October 22nd, 2025, Neptune will retrograde back into that Pisces fifth house of joy, children, romance, creativity, and self expression. This isn't the biggest of deal. Again, I'll get more into the detailed aspects that it might be making in the monthlies, but had a long journey with Neptune here. So Neptune retrograding back into like the last degree of Pisces. Generally could be bringing you back to March, April of 2025 around what was like coming up with children, romance, having fun, creative projects, self-expression. But I personally think that this Neptune retrograding back into Pisces is probably just giving us a break from the dissolving effects it's having in Aries, which would be the health, the work, and the routine for you. So it might just be giving you a little bit of breathing room around whatever you started to maybe dissolve or break down regarding what was no longer sort of working in the area of health, daily work, and routines. So not too worried about it, but again, Neptune will re-enter your Aries sixth house of daily work, health, and routines. And I'll discuss that more in the end of this in 2026 when it joins Saturn again, giving you that additional opportunity to sort of dissolve outdated structures that aren't serving you in this area. Now, the outer planets retrograding back into their previous territory and signs sort of continues in November when Uranus retrogrades back into your Taurus seventh house of marriage and long term partnership on November 7th. So, again, not the biggest of deal, but if your ascendant is at the last couple of degrees of Scorpio, and consequently your descendant will be at the last couple of degrees of Scorpio, I would pay attention more so to the area of partnership and self. With Uranus sort of retrograding back into this area, could be sort of giving you a last bit of opportunity to sort of change or innovate this axis that's been going on for a while. November 9th, 2025, Mercury finally goes retrograde at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. This will be in your second house of earned income and self-worth. Now remember, Mercury rules the 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and your long-term goals, as well as your other money house, the 8th house, resources, investments, assets, debt, loans, etc. So it could start this revisionary process around money management, long-term investments, your partner's resources, your long-term goals. But in December of 2024, Mercury went direct at 6 degrees Sagittarius. So something to keep in mind. It's not, Mercury tends to do this where it will, the Mercury cycles will go retrograde at this degree and then direct at this same degree, some time later. But if I see it, I say it, it might resonate. You might be able to think back to December of 2024 around, money, long term goals, resources, friendship, and how maybe it's come full circle. Maybe it's a similar situation, but you have an entirely different perspective on it this time. But either way, you will be reviewing and revising sort of your finances, long term goals, who you surround yourself with, and it will back up into your Scorpio first house. So ultimately, like how it really serves you, yourself, and how you want to show up in the world. And then finally, on November 29th, 2025, that Mercury will go direct in your Scorpio first house of self at 20 degrees. Starting, especially if Mercury's direct in your natal chart, really starting that forward momentum over anything you reviewed and revised financially, resources, who you surround yourself with, and those long term goals, and ultimately how they're really going to integrate and support you. Then the energy starts to really kick up in December, on December 4th, where we have this full moon in your Gemini 8th house. Again, the 8th house of transformational work, other people's resources. So, again, a financial house, investments, assets, loans, partners' resources as well. Really, it's a full moon, so it's really highlighting sort of, I think, more so for many of you, the financial aspects of your life. But this full moon is culminating this area at 13 degrees, but it's going to square the north and south node in your Pisces 5th house and your Virgo 11th house. So again, 11th house, long-term goals, social network, 5th house of children, romance, creativity, self-expression, joy. So there could be this sort of, as you enter December, there could be this culminating sort of highlighting moment around finances and how it's maybe adapting or changing sort of, you know, the fun part of life, or the fun part of your chart and thus life, and sort of your social network and your goals. It's not, I mean, I think this full moon in this mutable grand cross is worth mentioning, because mutable grand crosses, I mean, although this will be brief, the moon moves very quickly. It does have an opportunity to create too much adaptability or too much change. So whatever's coming up around this time could create this desire to maybe change, like change how you have fun, change creative projects, change your goals, shift who you're spending time with socially, while you're trying to balance sort of finances and self-worth and maybe transformational work if that's something you're seeking. So again, it's not angular houses, so I don't think it's going to be so external, so major areas of life, but I think it is still worth mentioning, especially because Mars, your ruling planet, is going to enter its exaltation in Capricorn. So especially because this is the holiday season, like if you really celebrate the holiday season, a lot of Scorpio risings this year are sort of going into the thick of holiday season with their financial houses highlighted, having to make some adjustments to sort of socializing and having fun, while Mars is entering its exaltation in Capricorn, which is your immediate environment, any short distance travel. While Jupiter in the opposite house, the 9th house of travel, higher education, growth potential, those kinds of things, is also in its exaltation. So December 2024, Mars was retrograde, moving back into the area of its fall. So our actions, our desires were sort of in this more retrograde inward state. It looks kind of weird. Jupiter was also in its area or place of detriment, sort of overdoing it, sort of the pendulum swinging here, pendulum swinging there. Now in December of 2025, we have the planet of abundance and expansion, Jupiter, in its place of exaltation, well resourced, ready to go. And then we have Mars, the planet of our actions and desires, in its place of exaltation, well resourced, ready to go. And for Scorpio risings, if you travel a lot in December or you're traveling for, work or for the holidays with family, you have both planets in your travel houses in their exaltation, really like, especially Mars and Capricorn can sort of lead to burnout or exhaustion. So just, especially Scorpio risings, if you celebrate the holidays, there's a lot sort of being highlighted, like typical holiday situations that are being really sort of exalted in your chart, where there can be a potential for a lot of good, but there can be a potential of like too much of a good thing where you might burn yourself out or like pull yourself in too many directions. So if that is something that is typical during a holiday season, the holiday season for Scorpio risings look like a lot of family, a lot of travel, a lot of money, a lot of, socializing and party and fun, but in a way where it could be like too much. So definitely, like, if that is the case, especially with Saturn going back into your Aries sixth house of health, routines, and work in 2026, it's just something to keep in mind, where as you sort of go into 2026, to not burn yourself out, to not overdo it in December of 2025, where you can sort of go into the Saturn transit in that sixth house of like daily work, health, and routines in a more grounded, healthy space. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but December is very different from December of 2024 with Mars and Jupiter opposite each other in their exaltation. So this is going to be very interesting December 2025 compared to 2024. But with that being said, I really want to get into sort of wrapping this up and getting into 2026 perspective. Now, it's important to think about, okay, Jupiter in 2025 will have entered your Cancer ninth house. Again, anything you're pursuing, growth and potential wise. But in 2026, Jupiter is going to start moving into your Leo 10th house of career and public recognition, providing a lot of you the ability to have more faith and expand the area of career, business, and or public recognition. Jupiter also rules your second house of earned income. So this could definitely be naturally tying in the ability to expand career, but also the ability to expand your earned income and your self-worth as well for some of you. However, we've had the past couple years, we've had these periodic Jupiter-Saturn squares, which have sort of been frustrating in terms of, well, I want to step into the expansion that Jupiter can offer me, but Saturn is sort of pumping the brakes and calling me back to this area of my chart and thus life to restructure, create boundaries, or work on in order to maybe strengthen or increase my capacity for the abundance that Jupiter maybe could offer us in another area of our chart. As we move into 2026, Jupiter and Saturn, maybe not always by degree, but by sign, will start to trine each other. So Jupiter and Saturn will start to get out of this square configuration and they'll start to enter this trine configuration. Now, trines are considered more positive because it makes things happen a little bit easier. It sort of is like this natural flow where things sort of fall into our lap, things just kind of naturally happen, and they're out of this less tense square configuration that requires us to take action or change. So trines aren't always a positive thing. I mean, each aspect has a positive and a negative. But trines are a little bit easier to work with because it just allows things to sort of naturally flow. It doesn't always require us to take action. So for you, Jupiter and Saturn by sign will be in a trine configuration between your career, your health, your work, and your routines. But don't forget, Saturn will be with Neptune, I think, in February of 2026 at 0 degrees of Aries, which is a critical degree. It's also called the Aries point. It intensifies it. It makes it more potent, in my opinion, for you to, or provide you the opportunity to initiate the dissolution or the breaking down of old structures, old patterns, old ways of doing things regarding your health, your wellness, your work, and your routines that aren't really supporting you anymore. That could positively flow or positively influence the career or vice versa in that trine or by sign trine configuration. Additionally, Uranus will move back into Gemini in 2026, where we will start to really, I think, really start to feel the Uranus-Pluto trine. Again, trines sort of create this natural ability to have things flow, have things happen, but we have the planet of change and innovation, trine the planet of death and transformation in this trine configuration. So I think collectively we could see a mass acceleration of change and transformation. But individually, and for you, Scorpio rising, this is really tying in change and transformation to home, family, property, real estate in regards to sort of your resources or any transformational work needed. I think if some of you have, been in therapy or been working on any sort of generational trauma or, working out the problems in family, this trine configuration could definitely help accelerate that change and transformation needed. But some of you also, it might just be more financial, right? It might be more of like, how do I really change and innovate my resources, my investments, my assets, a partner's resources in order to transform a home, family, property, or real estate situation in my life. And lastly, the North Node will actually start moving into your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate in 2026. And consequently, that South Node, the opposite point, will move into your 10th house of career and public recognition. Now, it's important to note that just because the South Node, which is a point of decrease or release, is in your 10th house of career and public recognition, does not mean you're going to lose your career, you're going to stop working. It does not always mean that. The South Node could be a place of sort of pause or comfort or sort of like, this is not necessarily the biggest focus. The North Node is the place we tend to hyperfixate on or we get really hungry for, but we have to not forget about the South Node. So it's important to balance, especially going into 2026, balance the career, the public recognition with the home, family, property, real estate needs that might be pulling you more in that direction. But again, the nodes aren't, in my opinion, necessarily meant to be one or the other. We're meant to balance them. So, in order to balance them, how do we release things, for you in that 10th house? How can we sort of work with releasing things that no longer serve you to sort of support the career and the public recognition in order to provide you more time or balance to focus on home, family, property, or real estate needs? So, collectively, to me, the Aquarius Leo axis is very much about the individual versus the collective. And I think, again, people get too hyper fixated on, too much of the individual, too much of the collective, too much of, the south node or the north node. I think it's important to note as we go into 2026, especially with the rapid acceleration of change and innovation that could take place, it's important to honor the individual within the group. And for you, again, it's the career and the home and family. So really honoring your gifts and your individuality and your abilities within your work, your career, or your public recognition to sort of use those gifts and talents and abilities and strengthen them to support that north node in the home, the family, and property and real estate needs. But with that being said, it is going to be a wild ride. I think we're entering a new wave in 2025, 2026, sort of like how we entered a new wave in 2020, but obviously it'll be very different. I think we're entering a new wave of rapid change and transformation. But with that being said, thank you so much for listening. And without a doubt, it is an incredible time to be alive with all of you.